What does Final Fantasy, Street Fighter, and Mario Kart have in common? Well, I guess only the fact that they're all really well-known games. Today I wanted to take a look at some games that flew under the radar a little bit. Maybe some games that a lot of people just never got to play, for whatever reason. Anyway, let's not waste any time, let's get right to it. Last Bronx was an arcade fighting game that was ported to the Sega Saturn in 1997. Like Battle Arena Toshinden, every fighter has his or her own weapon, which is one of your main forms of attack. You'll choose from 8 different playable characters, all which control very differently. It plays a bit like the Virtual Fighter titles, but I like this engine a bit better. It's a little faster paced. Your fighter doesn't float in the air forever when you jump. Matches can end quite quickly as most attacks take a considerable amount of damage. This is actually a great looking title for a 1997 release. This was a time when some 3D games looked great and others just looked like plain garbage. It does have its visual flaws though, like poor draw distance and some strange scaling issues, but the fighters look really good and for the most part the backgrounds do as well. Fights take place in different locations around Tokyo, Japan. You'll battle it out on rooftops, in subways, and right outside of airport terminals. Unlike most 3D fighters at the time, Last Bronx does not feature a standard ring out. Each match has a perimeter that's gated off, stopping fighters from going outside of the fight zone. The music is hit or miss. Some tracks are not so memorable, while others are classic 90s fighting game goodness. Sound effects are great though, from the jumping sounds to the swinging of weapons. It really brings the fight into your home. With so many fighting games dropping left and right in the 90s, it's understandable why this game was missed by many. If you have a Saturn, make sure to check this one out. Tiny Toons Adventures Buster Busts Loose is a game I purchased brand new in 1993 without knowing anything about it, strictly because it was on sale. Now, I knew I was going to be alright because it was a Konami game, and back then you really couldn't go wrong with just about anything Konami. This is a great little platformer for the Super Nintendo, and I still play it frequently. You play as Buster as you make your way through 6 different stages, all with their own unique theme. You can jump and kick attack with the face buttons, as well as run with the shoulder buttons. Your run attack can also damage and defeat enemies, as well as run up and down walls. The music is what you'd expect from both a Tiny Toons game and a platformer. That being said, there are some very good tunes here that fit the mood of each level quite well. This is definitely one of the better looking games on the SNES. I love how colorful this game is. I also appreciate when a platformer has nice shading effects, and this game does, for sure. The backgrounds are very detailed and feature some nice scrolling effects. Even though the game only features 6 stages, there's still plenty to do thanks to the mini-games that you'll play in between each level. Partake in anything from racquetball to bingo, all done in Tiny Toons fashion, of course. This game isn't too difficult, nor is it a cakewalk, so just about everybody can enjoy this little title. It's also usually always had at right around $10, well worth every penny. Now here's a game that flew way below the radar. Streak Hoverboard Racing for the PlayStation was released in 1998. This game was developed by the same amazing team that brought us Twisted Metal 1 and 2, as well as Jet Moto 1 and 2. There are quite a few characters to select from, all with their own personas and attributes. The menus are a bit reminiscent of Jet Moto, which is a good thing. The controls will take a little bit of practice to get used to. I mean, you are on a hoverboard. There's a boost meter that fills up every time you complete a lap, so it's pretty much use it or lose it, and you will need to use it. This game can get quite tricky on any difficulty set higher than beginner. There's also a crouch button and a jump button. While in the air, the shoulder buttons and D-pad buttons can rotate your character around in all sorts of directions to pull off tricks. Some of the sound effects, like the boost sound, have been ripped straight from Jet Moto, and again, there's nothing wrong with that. It only makes me enjoy the game more. The music also reminds me quite a bit of the first Jet Moto. The levels are pretty decent. I wouldn't say they're great, but they definitely get the job done. If I had one complaint though, it would have to be the graphics. This game just doesn't look that good. It doesn't stop me from enjoying it, but it can be a little bit hard to look at in different stages of the game. I mean, this was 3 years into the PlayStation's lifespan, and we were used to getting a little more at that time. Overall, if you enjoy Jet Moto, you'll probably like Streak. This game has a lot of character to it. There are a ton of cutscenes and lots of story to go with this game. So much, in fact, it comes on 2 discs for the GameCube, which is the version I'm playing here. This is a very goofy game that definitely does not take itself seriously. And there are a lot of characters to choose from. I mean, a lot. Look at all these people. Everything from mobsters to genies and birds that ride magic carpets. This game is just plain crazy. Every character comes equipped with a machine gun. There are also power-up pickups that can be collected throughout each level. These will give you typical kart racer weapons like rockets and mines, as well as stuff like shields and health power-ups. You can also use weapons to destruct objects around you, which can cause damage to your enemies if timed just right. And the craziness continues with the level selection. There are levels with monsters, pirates, and a level where you're trying to escape a human intestinal tract. Seriously.
You are now entering the human body. Off the side of your plane, you will see several human cells. As you struggle to find your way out, you'll want to dodge the white blood cells and collect the oxygen cells to avoid suffocation. Of course, if you like suffocation and want to stay trapped in the body, please ignore these directions. Let me further advise you that by ignoring these directions, you will also be hurting my feelings, which will in turn suffocate our friendship. Is that a risk you want to take?
The music is fun, as are the sound effects, and the game just looks pretty good for a GameCube release. It's really just an all-around goofy experience, and if you haven't played it yet, you really should check it out. Now let's go back to the Super Nintendo one more time for another 1993 platformer. Plock is one of those games I never even heard of until recently, which is surprising, as during the time of its release, video games were all I really cared about. I mean, I was 8 years old. Now, Plock wakes up one fine morning only to discover his square flag is gone. He ventures off to find it, and after the first boss battle, you'll finally recover Plock's flag, only to discover that all of the flags in his town have been taken. Plock can throw his limbs at enemies to defeat them, and has 2 different jumps, a standard jump as well as a spinning jump that's a lot faster and higher. The levels start out pretty short and quite easy, but after just a few of them, the difficulty increases quite a bit. There are packages in certain stages that can give you temporary power-ups with upgraded weapons. The game was praised for its music, and the sound effects are very good as well. This game was also recognized for its very colorful and detailed graphics. I think this is one of the best looking platformers on the SNES next to Yoshi's Island. Now, I picked this game up for cheap, not even knowing what it was, and boy was I pleasantly surprised. A game worth checking out for sure. In 2010, racing fans like myself were treated to a great little game called Split Second. It's an arcade-style racer with a twist. You see, there's this crazy reality TV show taking place, and you're one of the contestants racing it out in this battle zone of trickery. Every track in the game is loaded with sabotages and shortcuts that can be triggered with the press of a button. These are called power plays. There's a meter on screen that fills up when doing things like drafting behind opponents or drifting. And this meter is used to detonate these power plays throughout the level. The more your meter is filled, the more devastating moves you can pull off. Some of these moves actually change the track layout, like blowing up bridges or knocking down airport control towers. This is really what makes the game. I mean, this is absolute chaos, and you really have to watch out because these moves can be performed by the AI as well. And if you don't time a move just right, you can end up your own victim. The steering is a bit tight for an arcade racer, but it feels good. You really will rely on pulling off power plays to win races. It can definitely get tough as you progress. This is a beautiful looking game. Even with all the fast-paced action and destruction, there's a lot of detail in just about everything on screen. The cars look great, but I feel like the level designs are the shining point in the presentation department. The music is intense, and so are the sound effects, as should be expected with a current-gen game. With all the bombs dropping, cranes swinging, and buses exploding into your path, it's hard to imagine how many people still haven't played Split Second. Actually, I'm surprised how many people still haven't even heard of the game. This is a fantastic game with loads of fun to be had. And if you like games like Burnout, this is right up your alley. Hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching, and stick around. There's plenty more videos coming soon.